All right, so we are live here, and oof, Betty, you already know. I already warned you. I'm triggered. Those of you who don't like watching me when I'm triggered, log off because I am hella triggered right now. The reason why I'm triggered is because I don't understand why things are so complicated for men. And I don't like, pinning people to a gender, but certain things it does apply. And this makes me crazy. You were talking about how men, aren't in touch with their emotions as much and they weren't really taught to express themselves. However, I was, she's on the phone, you guys, so that's what I'm referencing when I say Betty. But when you get a guy in a topic that they like, they can break down nuances and you win. I mean, they know they're not stupid. So if you talk about sports, they can talk about a lot of things. So I call BS on saying men just don't know how to communicate. I just think that men don't care. I really do. And here's what I want to specifically ask. And this, so many women have messaged me after just the post this morning that they're triggered. And the reason why they're triggered like me is because it reminds them of what they've gone through in past relationships or trying to get to know somebody. And there are two things. Please don't let me forget about the going missing for 3 days, Betty. Okay, because I want to address that too. Actually, let me just write that down before I forget, because that's a big one. Okay, so girl, big time. I told you I was like over here rocking back and forth, like Jesus, take the wheel. Okay, so when you're in a situation with a guy, guys say, tell me if you've heard this before. Man, women expect me to read their mind. Why don't they just open their mouth and say what they want? Have you heard guys say that before?
Absolutely.
Even in the group. Okay, so when we take the time to use our big girl words and open up our mouths and string subjects and verbs together and every now and then throw in adjectives and adverbs, now we are being needy. Now we are taking the fun out of the relationship. Now we're just not going with the flow. Why is it that when women open up our mouths and say, hey, I have a problem with this, can we talk about it so that we can avoid it in the future? Now we're nags. I,
So my hypothesis is that they're just not comfortable with discussing emotions. Sure, they can talk about the things that they want to talk about. That's easy. But when it has to do with emotions, that's typically a woman's wheelhouse. Not to say that men don't have the capacity to explore that, but a lot of them shy away from what makes them uncomfortable, and they don't want to have those conversations. So in my experience, that has resulted in them shutting down or getting an attitude
yes.
and walking away.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to talk to you. Like, I'm not yelling, I'm not accusing. Sometimes it might not even be about you. This is just what I'm trying to, process. And I need you to listen. I need you to be there for me, because if we're in a relationship together, I should be able to trust you to things. You're not my only friend, but I would like to, if you're my man, that means you are elevated past the friend level. And if I can't talk to you, my friend, then what are we doing?
Oh, girl, I'm telling you, I always say, I got chills right now because whenever I come to a post, I'll be like ready to make a comment. And then if you come to that post before me, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yes, girl, yeah, preach, yes. Like you say exactly what I feel, and I'm tired of feeling like I'm crazy with these different people because it's like I I have my own issues. Everyone has issues. I'm not saying I'm perfect. One of my problems is not being able to articulate myself. I can communicate and articulate myself. That is what I do for a living. I don't understand grown men shutting down because a conversation needs to be had. I had an ex boyfriend who I would say to them, the way I live my life requires planning and organization to some degree because I have a job and I have a child and I have responsibilities as an adult. So we are not teenagers where you can pop up at my parents' house and be like, let's go get ice cream. No, if you want to spend time with me, I need some sort of planning. And on top of that, it makes me feel like I'm not a last minute thought. So if I take the time to express what I need and I give you the reasons why, And when I bring it up, you have a problem with the mere fact that I bring it up? What am I supposed to do with that?
You're supposed to be happy at whatever effort he makes. And
Yes, that's what they ask you to do.
shut up and take it.
Just
That's it.
girl, you are in my life right now. My very last situation, that's literally what it was. After having a conversation, I said, okay, so let me get this straight, because the thing was, hey, I don't want can our next conversation not be it wasn't a debate, it was a be a oh, I can't think of the word, but it basically was like something that you're really unpacking. It was the perfect word, and I cannot think of what it was. But I'm like, okay, so me expressing my thoughts, you're summing it up as that negative word, that word with a negative connotation. And so I'm like, okay, so what I take from that is, if Yancy is feeling something, shut up, because you're gonna ruin the mood. You're gonna ruin the vibe. We're gonna have a discussion about it, and that's gonna make everything not fun anymore. So Yancy just needs to take it in, and I guess Yancy just needs to call Betty in that moment and vent. But then the same thing is gonna happen over and over again, which is the purpose of a communicator. You communicate so that you can identify the problem in order to avoid it in the future. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if I don't want the same result over and over again, I'm going to talk about it so that we can avoid it in the future. Chavez is saying
They
agree.
don't want they don't want to point it out. They don't want to be labeled that they did something wrong.
Nope.
And like I had a situation where I'm talking to this guy and we talk every single day, like daily. And then all of a sudden he went radio silent on me for like a week. You know, I was like, whoa. And I was going through a really bad time and I needed to talk to him. And he wasn't there. He wasn't responsive to calls, texts, nothing.
Yeah.
And I just freaked out a little bit. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess he ghosted me. Like, that's foul. That's my feelings. And then he popped up out of nowhere like nothing happened. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And when I mentioned it, he was like, oh, well, I thought I told you I was going to be, you know, here doing this, and I was not going to have my phone. And I'm like, first of all, no, you didn't tell me anything.
I think I would have remembered that.
Right. And I'm like, okay, you didn't tell me that? How did I respond? What did I say? He couldn't tell me that part. He was, oh, well, I thought I told you. My bad. No, not your bad. That's kind of foul. And that really bothers me because you don't go from talking to somebody every day to all of a sudden nothing. And he basically was like, well, like, in other words, we're not a couple, so I don't owe you this relationship.
Oh, see? See?
Oh, and I don't think we talk every day anyway.
Oh.
Sir. Don't have me pull up transcripts. Like, don't have me pull up a catalog because we talk every day. This is not hyperbole, sir. Literally, we talk every day. So, excuse me for feeling some type of way when I don't hear from you in a week.
Girl.
And then so, because I had the nerve to express this in him, don't you know he got an attitude with me?
And I bet you weren't screaming.
Stop talking to me again.
I bet you weren't screaming.
In his mind, he needed a cool off period.
Yes,
or
yes.
I needed a cool off period because he didn't want to deal with me being upset. And I said, you know what? You're right. We're not in a relationship. And silly me, I kind of thought we were just working.
Building something.
So clearly, I like you too much. So let me retract some of my life. So my dad, you put me in my place. He's like, and I was like, I guess I'm nobody to you. You're right. I'm nobody. I don't have no title here. He's like, well, I didn't say you weren't nobody. I'm like, well, that's how I'm being treated. So cool. I understand now. Thank you for clarifying.
Know your place, Betty. Know your place. Know your little place. Yes.
He let me know my place.
Yes.
And he expected us to be cool after that.
Yep. Stay in your lane, Betty.
Like, right. Silly me. How dare I? How dare I?
But let there be physical requirements, and let you turn the table and say, "Oh no, we're not in a relationship. So why would you expect to have physical intimacy? Oh, we're not in a relationship. So, but don't let the tables turn and suddenly they get everything that you're saying. Well, we've been building, we've been talking. Girl, you have said some things, so I want to address this, and there are some comments that we have to address, and I'll read them so that you can hear them too, unless you're watching in the group too right now live. But and YouTube, for YouTube who's going to be watching this, because I'm going to post this after the fact in YouTube. We are having a live discussion. I will read all the comments for you guys so that you can hear as well. But this is how I get my life together. I love my little secret group. Okay, so you're talking about going MIA. I was so triggered yesterday talking to Try, okay, my podcast partner after taping. And I loved it because his fiance got in on it. Doe was there, his fiance came, and we were all having this conversation, right? We were having a conversation about people going missing. And it came up earlier in the post that I did asking guys, what things do women do that make them seem needy and clingy, right? And so one of the guys said, I went missing for 2 days and the girl had a problem with it. And of course, you said everything like the most eloquent way, and like I had nothing to add to it. But essentially, what I was saying, and the ironic thing is, he actually came to this. I have a theory that if you are getting to know somebody and it is nothing for you to go days without so much as a text, you probably are not that into them. And I made this post, and ironically, he's like, I was thinking it through and I thought about it, I really didn't. It's true, because when anything feels like a chore, it's a huge sign that you probably don't like them. You might be attracted to them physically. She might have a nice little derriere. Or if you're into rack, she might have a nice rack. But you're not into her if you can go days without talking. And we had this conversation, and Chai was saying, he made this point on the podcast, but he said, I said, if you like sports, you don't go, oh, I watched sports today, so let me wait 3 days before I watch sports again. No, you watch sports whenever you want to because you're into sports. He said, yeah, but with sports, I can pull up an app and the app will give to me. And I said, okay, well, that's a little bit of a selfish mindset because what you're saying is, I'm only doing the sporting activity because it's giving into me. So again, that's making my point. If there was something that you were getting out of it, you would do it. And so for me, it's not a chore to reach out to a man that I like. It's not a chore to FaceTime a man that I like. It's not a chore to hang out with the guy that I like because I'm getting something out of it because I like him. Okay, sorry, I had to get that out. Chris is saying that there is a time and place. And here's the thing, Chris. Nobody knows when that unicorn hour is because apparently the morning is not a good time. Apparently the afternoon is not a good time. Apparently the evening is not a good time. Apparently it's not a good time to address the situation right when it happens. And apparently it's not a good situation to address it after it happens down the road. Apparently there's never a good time. So please, Chris, let us know, when is this magical time and place that it's okay to bring up an issue with your man? Saucy is saying, leave him alone. That's what I say. Because I feel like a man who doesn't get this, I'm constantly going to have a problem with him. Tamika says, yes, they deem it as pointing out as opposed to communicating. Saucy says he has poor communication skills and all men are not like that. I can only hope, my love. I can only hope. Saucy says this.
These are the experiences, though, that a lot of us dealt with, and it's frustrating.
But Betty,
of course, nobody wants to be made to feel like they're at fault. So with me, when I discuss something, I made I statements. I feel.
Yes,
I feel.
yes.
This is how I felt when this happened. So it's never you did this, you always, none of that. I mean, nobody likes to feel blamed.
Yes.
And I mean, I communicate and I do conflict resolution for a living, so I know how to talk.
You are my spirit animal, girl.
And I know how to fix my tone. I make sure I'm not mad before
yes.
I address it.
You put affirmations in between. I love that you do this, but honey, this one area right here, girl.
I call it the criticism sandwich.
Yes.
I give a compliment, then I put in like my concern, and then I put another compliment.
Yes.
The little criticism or whatever the concern is in the middle.
Yes.
Compliment sandwich.
My mom always did that growing up. She would say, sweetheart, I love how you're keeping your room clean. You've been doing a really good job with your homework. I really need you to focus on that bathroom because it's been, really untidy. But, great job with the other stuff. Like, she would always do that, and we felt affirmed. And I just, you were saying that this is what we've dealt with. It is. And then, of course, you're going to get the people who say, well, you're responsible for what you attract. I'm not a bad communicator, so I don't understand how.
Raise your better circle.
Yes! Yes! Where is the watering hole for these unicorns? Please let me know where the watering hole is for these unicorns, and I will come and bring my cup and draw from that well. Because I communicate well, so I don't know how I'm attracting people who don't communicate well. Um, ugh. Saucy says
You're
this is
like me, you trust everybody.
everybody.
You know, you're filtering. It's a filtering process. And you don't know somebody's like this until an issue arises. Because they
Thank
can
you.
present well and tell you how much they like communication. I had one guy, he put on his dating profile how much he loves communication. And when I noticed that things got a little different between us, I asked him, I was like, well, are you attracted to me? And what did I call that out for? After that, he was like, oh yeah, of course. Why would you ask me that? I was like, well, I've never, it feels awkward for me to say this because I've never, had to address this before. And for me to even come to you like this, it's really hard. So I just wanted to know because, X, Y, and Z. And he was just like, oh, no, you're good. Da, 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 da. I never heard of that man again. He got uncomfortable with the conversation. He was uncomfortable.
Betty,
Accusation.
Betty, the number of people that I encounter who are not.
Oh, we were dating for 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Wow.
It's like, sir, really?
Wow.
Anyway.
But here's the thing. There are so many men out there, and I say men because I don't date women, so that's why I'm being biased. But there are so many men who would rather fade to black than have a conversation. I have had men say they had to like make up excuses to have to go do something, make up excuses to get off the phone, and think that the situation is just gonna magically disappear. No, bro, it's waiting right here when you come back. And then if you do bring it up, it's like, oh, every time we have to talk about this. Yes, because it never got resolved. It's just
Right.
it's
Why are you bringing up old stuff?
old
It's
stuff.
not old because
Bro,
we didn't resolve it.
bro. Oh my
I
god.
literally put a bookmark in the page and was waiting for you to come back. And then it took you 3 weeks to come back and say anything to me. So yeah, we're right here.
This
Where
is
you left us.
therapy for me to talk to you. Oh my god. She said this is why you should be dating more than one person. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. So for those of you on YouTube, because I'm gonna keep addressing YouTube, you guys, so be patient with me, Facebook. We have this debate before about whether you should date one person or not one person. And I will say this live to Saucy. I have seen the light. I have seen the light, good sister. And here's the thing. I feel that in my heart of hearts, I want to date one person at a time. In my heart of hearts. I feel like it's absolutely silly to be connecting with somebody, vibing with somebody, having a great time with somebody, no red flags with somebody, but yet I'm going to keep entertaining people as a safe measure. I feel like it's not fair to the second person. I feel like that other person is not really getting a fair shake because I'm giving the majority of my energy to the other person, and I don't want that in return. However, I feel that when somebody does act, well, you know what? No, I'm actually not contradicting myself because I feel like the only reason why dating multiple is necessary is if you don't want to have any gaps in between. So, if somebody is doing something that makes you not want to talk to them exclusively, I think the best thing to do is to move on. I think it's selfish to say, well, I want to keep people on my roster in the wings waiting because if guy number one messes up, I don't have to waste any time sliding into the next situation. I feel like that's selfish because I know for a fact, just off of people's energy, I have been the person on the bench. I have been the person who gets just enough conversation to keep me kind of on the hook, but they're not giving me their undivided attention because they're giving it to the first person in the first place. So no, I still stick with I think it's BS to date multiple people. However, I understand the temptation to do it selfishly. I'll put it that way. Um,
Well, you know what? As an only child, I have no problem with being selfish. And that's not in a bad way, but it's self-preservation and self-care. Because I know for me, when I put all my eggs in one basket and that basket breaks, my heart is hurt. And it just takes me too long to recover. So I'm not that invested in one person.
right.
And, if for whatever reason it doesn't work out with one of those people, I'm not that, I'm able to bounce back a little faster. I don't have time to wait.
I agree.
Like, getting my feelings hurt, rocking in a fetal position with my thumb in my mouth because I'm hurt. I can't.
I agree with you 1000%, but that's why I say it's selfish because it's all based on what you need. And this is not calling you out. I'm just being literal. So what I'm saying is
I'm agreeing with it.
if
It's
you
not
okay,
what I need.
oh got you. If you're okay though with it happening on the other side, then it's okay. As long as you're
I'm
not
fine with it.
okay, see, but I'm the person who gets an attitude when I'm the wing, the roster, the bench girl. So for me, it's because I don't want to put something out there that I'm not okay with receiving. I would rather somebody just not talk to me at all if I'm not their first forerunner. So that's where I struggle.
I don't mind because my thing is, we're all single, right? And everybody's not going to be compatible with each other.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about his connection with other people because I'm me. And if he fits better with somebody else, cool. But at the same time, I mean, I'm not. It is a level of competition, but I don't feel like I'm necessarily competing with these other women. I'm just going to present who I am.
Yes, you're
And
competing
I'm
with yourself.
going to show up as my genuine self. And if he buys that, cool. Because then he'll make his choice based on what
Yes.
fits him.
But
I'm okay with that.
here's the flip side, Betty. So I agree that you're not in competition with other women, you're in competition with yourself. But let's just say, for example, that guy, Bob, who you are feeling, but you could tell you're not getting his undivided attention for the reasons I just named, I would ghost Bob. I would literally just fall off from Bob. Why? Because I could tell I don't have first string energy. Now, me doing that, people say that makes me needy because they say that man doesn't owe you anything. Why should he give you first string energy? Don't you know there are other people around? However, for me, I feel like I am the prize. And if I'm second string, that means that you haven't seen my worth or you don't feel we're compatible. So if you don't see my worth, you don't feel like we're compatible, for whatever reason you don't have me as your first string, your first draft, then I say cut me loose and let me be because you're being selfish, holding on to me just for whatever selfish reasons. That's why I say I have a problem with it in reverse. Because I feel like that's the reason why we get guys who are inconsistent and go ghost for 3 days and da 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 da. It's because they have their first string, and I ain't it.
Now, I can agree with that, and I feel like this. It doesn't take all day to recognize sunshine, and my sunshine is not going to, show in everybody's direction. But my thing, too, is if he is not smart enough to see what this is, then I don't want him anyway, because obviously I can't trust his judgment.
So,
and his taste is poor.
So let's flip it now. Let's flip. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Let's flip it. So let's say you've got Bob and Bob is your number one, but you got dude 1, 2, and 3 because you don't want to keep all your eggs in one basket. Aren't you then doing to guy 2, 3, and 4 what you don't want? And those guys are thinking, if you can't see my sunshine, Betty, then I ain't with it. Shouldn't they walk too?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing though. I'm not telling all these dudes what I'm doing.
No.
It's not their concern.
No, they can't. You're not telling them, but they can feel it just like you can feel that Bob isn't giving you the number one attention.
Well, that's a conversation we can definitely have. I'm not necessarily going to pull back, but I will be like, I'm noticing you're not giving me this energy, or you're not feeling me. Like, what's the deal? And we can have that conversation that it communicates the way the guys say that they like the communication.
But wait, Betty. I'm sorry, I'm going to clarify. In the reverse, I'm saying, what if guy 2, 3, and 4 wants to stop talking to you, but he doesn't tell you, he just falls off like we're going to fall off? What if he falls off because okay, so you're okay with it. That's what I said. As long as you're even on both sides, then I have no problem. Tamika was saying ESPN is on every day because we were talking about the sports comparison. She's cracking up at Unicorn Hours. Chris says when it's just y'all two in private, in person, and there are no distractions such as sporting events. By the way, he's saying this is when it's Unicorn Hours. No sporting events, weddings, birthday dinners, parties, etc., and other celebratory occasions. Also, it's not a good idea to bring things up when intoxicated. Okay, so that checks out. I never do that. For me, when I'm emotional, that is when I don't communicate. I like to get my thoughts together. I will actually write them down because I don't want to get emotional and be all over the place, and I don't want to talk too long. So I will really sit with myself and go, what are the main things you're upset about, Yonci? And I will break it down, and I will give the actual example, and I'll give the why. So none of those correlate. So I'm calm, and I usually will say, hey, hit me when you get a chance. That way, that person's in a position to be able to talk. I want your undivided attention. I prefer in person, but if not, I'll take FaceTime. If you can't FaceTime, I'll settle for a call. I will not do text when it's something serious. So that throws that out, Chris. I appreciate your answer, but that still doesn't explain why guys can't communicate. Shamante says, but who's determining what poor communication is? No person is the same. People have their own way. You have to learn them versus trying to make them be you. Now, I don't disagree with that thought at all, Shermonte. I don't disagree at all. However, I feel that if you are communicating and you are not being understood and vice versa, there is a breakdown. Someone is missing the mark. Um, I would give an example, but I don't want to be too personal for people if they're watching this. Kent says,
Well, some people fail to try. If you're not communicating at all,
oh,
that's a fail.
you know what, Betty? And I'm glad you said that because that is my issue. I don't mind somebody struggling with communication. What I have a problem with is somebody shutting down and suddenly always having to go do something when it's time to talk. But yet, when we're cupcaking, you got hours and hours on end. But suddenly, if I have an issue that I'm bringing up, it's an issue. Hold on.
They come back when they think the coast is clear.
Exactly. I'm gonna turn off my camera for just a second. Go ahead and walk, baby girl, because I don't want my little munchkin on YouTube. Okay. So all right. So he says, Kent says, I guess you're right. A lot of guys who don't want to communicate might be bad at communicating, so it also might not be into you, and that is 1,000% what my hypothesis is. He said, I guess the solution is to widen your net and find someone that communicates in the way that you want them to communicate. And here's the issue, Kent, that someone like Betty and someone like myself has. Go ahead and I'll just close it. We're not running into throngs of great communicators. We're not like fighting off great communicators, which in my case is why sometimes I will try to work with somebody because I'm like, Lord knows when the next person who has their side teeth and is taller than me and is black and lives in the general vicinity of me, is going to come across my path. There aren't these throngs of people. So it sounds easy to be like, oh, we'll just wait for that person who does communicate. When you've lived 40 years and you don't encounter people who communicate well of the opposite sex, you start to feel like there might be unicorns.
It's not like a bus. They're not going to be along every 15 minutes.
Good girl. Chavez says, I love you and Betty. The two of you are dope. But reinforcement of our gender based sensibilities by someone of the same gender does little to resolve an issue. Chavez, feel free
we got
to.
accused of echo chamber. Well.
Right. Chavez, call me on my cell phone. I will three-way with Betty and you because I told Betty before we got on live, I want to unpack this. The reason why it's helpful to have Betty on is because it's easier to have another person to bounce off of than being a talking head and monologuing in front of a camera. So she's able to help me get out what the problem is. I would welcome your sensibilities and your thought process. Like I'm asking for it. Come on, Chavez. Sharmante says, I'm sure there is communication just not being returned just like you do. I'm not a phone guy. Triggered. I'll get back to that. I what did I just say? I prefer them to be in person. But how realistic is it for every time you need to talk to have to come over? Woo! Okay, that's girl. That's all. Breathe through it. Breathe you, Auntie. He said, and I had dead air or rambling. So if being on the phone is your thing, we will have issues. Here's the thing. Ain't no clearly there's no dead air with a talker like me. So that's not an issue. And we're talking specifically about communicating about something we have a problem with, not cupcaking and just breathing on the phone like, you hang up, baby, no, you hang up. We're talking specifically about, I called you and said, bro, I have this issue. Can we talk it through so we don't have it again? Shamante says, but it depends on where you are in the relationship. You may be in one space, the other is not. You can only respect that. So if he's not in a space where he can communicate, to me, that has nothing to do with the level of relationship. I don't care if we are roommates, neighbors, parent, child, lovers. I have a certain expectation of a communication level ability. Okay, let me get to these comments. Mika says, we also need to factor in how long. Sorry, this thing popped up. How do I make it go away? Good Lord, this thing popped up and it will not let it go away. Okay. Nope, we don't want to end the live. We just want to make this little thing go away. There we go. Okay. Samika says we also need to factor in how long the person of interest has been single. Sadly, I can go a few days without speaking to someone I'm very interested in. My schedule is hectic to include work travel. I even think about them often. So she's talking about the amount of time people spend in communication, how frequently. My schedule is hectic to include work travel. I even think about them often. Just out of habit and routine, I slip up. When they reach out, I'm engaged and slowly break my routine to interact more. I require patience and will not date more than one person. So, Samika, what you are describing, I have heard before, and more commonly by men. What I have to work on, and this is a moment of confession, in my world, I have my lens, which is framed by how I was raised and my life's experiences. I know because I know you that you're not lying. My brain doesn't compute that. Meaning, if somebody says, I've been thinking about you a lot, but I just haven't gotten around to texting you, don't kill me. But my brain has a hard time accepting that. And I don't know how to accept it that it's the truth because it is so outside of my experience. The reason why I said don't kill me is because there's going to be the people with the pitchforks going, Yonci, everyone's not like you. I'm not saying that I don't understand that. I am saying that the way my brain is wired, I have a hard time accepting two truths. I like you and think of you often, but I don't reach out. Do you get what I'm saying about it's hard for me to accept those two truths? It's the same, I guess, as a guy who says, I don't get how you can be into me but not want to have sex with me. Like, she really could be into you and not be ready to have sex. And it might be hard for a guy to, what is the word? It's hard to, oh, I can't think of that word, but it's like basically balance those two things. It's hard for you to put those two things together and understand. It's hard for me to grasp that because I have an understanding of what somebody does when they feel you, and yeah. But I've been told that give me patience. It takes me time to start seeing somebody in my life or putting someone in my life.
I can hear that and respect it, and then I will also counter that with because I'm very transparent. Um, like, okay, well, you can set a reminder in your phone. Because little things like that make me feel like, like when I hear from you, it really makes me happy and excited because I like you. So when I don't hear from you, I'm like, hmm. So yeah, just set your little reminder for Betty. That's all.
It's and this is a thing. This is where I struggle because when I first 6 years ago got into the dating space for the first time in life, I got on the dating scene in my 30s. I really thought, oh, if I like a person, he likes me back, and we have mouths to communicate, then there's nothing we can't get past because we just will talk things through. I learned very quickly how complex and intricate, these situations can be. And the thing is that if I'm doing something to make somebody else comfortable, which is like, oh, be patient with me. I don't move this way. Okay, cool. Me making you comfortable by default makes me psychotically uncomfortable. So it makes me feel like, how do you compromise on comfort? So if somebody bonds with someone through communication and somebody else wants to shoot themselves in the face because of communication, I just don't see how there's any compatibility, which makes me then throw the whole person away, which then would someone say, oh, you're too dramatic. I don't know how two things can live together that are so far apart. And I don't know how to make that person more comfortable or make me more comfortable because this is how we are. Shabazz.
And see, that's the thing. You like, is that compatibility though? Because like, if it's that difficult for either party, then it's kind of like, maybe that's just we're just not supposed to deal with each other on that level.
Yes, because I don't think it should be that complicated. Shabazz says men accept that men and women are different and don't need women to meet male sensibilities. I actually disagree with that. That they just are cool with it because I feel like they might not address it, but they just ghost. They say they're okay with it, but they will just leave. They won't talk about it and be like, Betty, we need to talk about this. Can we work this out? They will just leave. And then you have the woman crying like, I don't understand. We've been talking for 6 weeks and he just went missing. He went missing because he didn't like what you did and he didn't want to talk about it, so he just left you. Men
I
don't.
think guys will tell you one time, and then they'll give you enough rope to hang yourself, and then, I guess, sometimes people need that repeat, And you know how as women, we'll repeat without that's what we call the bag. But a guy, he'll just be like, well, you know that time, blah, blah, blah.
I said it.
Cool. And you play it to the left if you want to, and you gonna keep doing it, and then you're gonna be like, maybe it might not be the third time you do it, it might not be the 10th time, but eventually he's gonna be sick of you, and then when he has found something that he thinks is better than you, that's when he makes his move. He's strategically putting his little plan in place, because men don't hop off without the next thing already lined up.
Interesting. And I think women are guilty of that too. He said men don't care about a wedding ring, but women will find happiness in it. So we get it for you and don't tell you no to a ring. Men don't really care to spend thousands to $10,000s of dollars on a wedding dress, wedding and reception when that money could go towards other things. Women typically have more to say in the home we build, from the design to the furniture to colors, etc. We just ask for our own room that we can do with as we please. For my personal experiences of single, married, and divorced male friends, it just seems like women need more from men in order to be happy in a relationship than men need from women. We don't typically need a woman to change much about herself in order for us to be happy. I will not disagree with that last part. I really, really don't. And I do hear that consistently where men are just like, they just accept a woman. They've taken the time to get to know her and they're like, okay, I accept her. And he just moves with it. We as women, and the guy said this on the podcast, we as women, we want to tweak things and adjust things to make ourselves comfortable. But I don't know how to not let things bother me. So for example, if the guy does not give me heads up and he's always inviting me at the last minute, and for me, a last minute invite to me says you don't care if I'm available or not because you're willing to risk it every single weekend, and you don't care about the fact that I have to find a sitter last minute and go through all these hoops, or maybe I've already made other plans. I don't know how to just put those thoughts away. It just stews in my mind and makes me angrier and angrier and angrier, or hurt, and I connect emotion to your action. So even though you say, "Oh, it's not that deep, babe. I'm not a planner." I can't separate that. I still will go, well, if I've told you that that's what I want and you still don't do it, then obviously you don't care. I don't know how to separate the emotion from the action. Shermante says that's not dating, that's hanging out. Dating to me is going into exclusivity. If we're hanging out cool, that means things remain open. Chavez says Betty is speaking the truth, and I'm assuming he's talking about when you're talking about dating multiples. Um, Chris was replying to Samika. He said, BS. You check your social media every day. If not that, you check your bank account every day, or you check your calendar every day. So there's no excuse to not speak to the person you like daily. And that's coming from a guy. So whoop. Shermante was calling you out saying, but you're okay doing it to men. But I think I jumped on that too. Yes, Shabazz is calling in. Okay, so how do I do? Oh, he hung up. Okay, call back. I'm still not used to this phone because it says like accept or decline, but I want to accept it and merge the two calls together. So hopefully I can figure out how to do that. Okay. Anthony says unicorn hours. Wow, I can't speak for all men, but my unicorn hour is about 9 p.m. right after I decompress for the day and I'm settled in the house. Okay, Anthony, so then why not tell the lady that instead of just going dark? Why not just do that instead of making excuses to get off the phone and say, babe, can we have these types of conversations after 9? No one is first string from the jump. It takes time. Interesting. Okay. And then Shermante's chiming in to Chavez saying they don't want to earn that. Talking about exactly. Travis says, I'm tired of being 2, 3, and 4. Thank you. Shermante says a lot of time it's not a communication issue, it's the approach. So tell us, how can we approach? Because like I said, and I can attest to, oh, here we go. Oh, we got it. I see the button to merge the call. Okay, so I have you and Chavez, Betty.
Hi, Chavez.
Yes! Okay, so Chavez, I know you're dying to jump in. I'm going to get to these comments because I let them get really far behind, and then we're all going to unpack. Okay. So you guys are saying it's the approach, but like I was about to say, Betty is amazing at communicating. I'm going to toot my horn. I'm amazing. I know how to come in without attacking. I know how to compliment, do all this stuff. So if we're doing all those things that are the gentle approach, what else could we do? Samika says in response to Chris, that's the thing. I don't check social media or my bank account daily. My bank account is set up to alert me when a transaction takes place. Chris is saying, no, I'm not saying that's why guys don't communicate. I'm saying I was just giving the unicorn hours of communication where it's most effective. And I did understand that. Shermante says most folks don't just shut down. It may be how it's presented. Again, so how is it supposed to be presented? Um, Chris says to Samika, but you have it set up where it reaches you. Regardless, it's an expectation that you set up. Yes, so my point is that we have the time. Woo, that's good. Samika responds to Chris by saying, I can speak and text my partner daily. However, in the beginning, I'm not good at initiating first contact. If they call and text, I always respond and follow up. I'm just not great at initiating in the beginning. I think there's more to unpack there. Chris says, being on a man to answer your question about a man. Oh, bring on a man to answer your question about a man, which Chavez just did. Okay, he said, I get that and I agree. Shamante is doing the face palm. To Latasha, I'm almost done, you guys, with these comments. Latasha says, I agree. My conceived, I don't know what that, I think that was a typo. Chris, I think of Tony every time I do that, Chavez. Tony making fun of me, imitating me. Chris says, my brain agrees with your brain. Yeah, for those of you on YouTube who don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to my Instagram page and see the what do you call it, impersonation Tony did about me. Okay, when I read comments. Kent says, I understand Yonci and Betty. That's not easy out here for y'all in these dating streets. I hope more males learn to open up more. Thank you, Kent. Thank you so much. I just even empathizing means a lot. Keith says that's a respectable point, though. Okay, sex doesn't mean you like me because that fades. Four more comments, guys, and I'm done. Without trying to make this to take this topic personally, I'm sure this is relevant to my dating situation or lack thereof. Okay, and taking it personally is good because we should apply this stuff to our lives. Men also have the same problem for years in relationships, even if they don't leave. Finally, Samika says, Betty, you can't counter facts. Huh? I can literally think about and reach out to text when I'm hit with a business call that goes on for an hour and then straight into a meeting or sun time. I've even texted them and checked my phone hours later and the text is still sitting as a draft. What I'm committed to are good morning and good night texts. Oh, okay. And then, oh, Betty's responding on the thing. So there we go. So she said, I've been guilty of drafts too. Whew! So we're caught up because we were like 15 minutes behind on the comments. So I just wanted to address those. All right, Chavez, you have the floor. And while you're doing that, I'm actually going to grab my little snack. I'm listening, but speak on it, friend.
So here's the issue. Men are not raised to communicate or to acknowledge their emotions or to recognize their emotions. They're literally taught to be okay with life as the wind blows. Try to do is okay because it is a
Mm, mm.
so
I'm sorry, could you
the
say that last part? And whatever we decide to do is okay because it's a man's world and that's why we're triggered. And I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Didn't I say that, young people, before we got on this call?
Jesus,
I
you
said
you
basically men
did.
were not held responsible for emotional things. Back in the day, traditionally, men brought home the bacon, women cook it, and they handle all the emotional labor of the relationship. The man is just supposed to work and be physically present, not emotional. That
Wow.
that was it.
Wow.
and that carries on to this day because my father's father, my father was born in 36, right? My dad's still alive. And my dad has grown to be more than he was when I was younger. So you're talking about a generation like women were taught, when it came down to it, the men would go to the bar, the men would congregate, we would talk our talk, and the women your talks were more detail oriented about life. And we would talk about things that made us feel better outside of life. A
Mmm.
man's life wasn't necessarily a man's life and a woman's life wasn't happy, but women felt better with it.
Can you repeat that, Shabazz? Because that was powerful. You said women like to talk about life, and men like to talk about things outside of life.
Yes. Because we don't deal with men don't typically deal with
Ooh.
um because of the way you are, you guys carry a child in you for 9 months. You're more connected with the nuances of life in general. We're literally like we're not taught that. Like I'm 46, and it took me to understand relationships for men are we are not prepared to function in a healthy and positive way in a relationship. We're not that.
Wow.
From the time you're young, from the time you're a girl, it's being pumped into you that your value keeping your saving yourself for this guy who's going to come along and sweep you off your feet. Then you have to provide for him and make him feel like quote unquote a man. Then you have to have kids. Like, there's so much put on you guys in regards to relationships. You have guidance and direction because from the time you're a girl, you're giving that. From the time we're boys, you know, we're told you're going to be a lady killer. You're going to have a bunch of girls. You know, you're not taught to be held accountable for the things that we do. You know, boys will be boys. That's the whole entire thing. Everything that we deal with that we look at as being quote unquote less than or weaker is projected at the female.
Right.
Girls cry. You throw like everything that's being pushed on us about the female species is as if they're less than or weaker. In all actuality, when you come down to really understand it, the female species is actually the stronger. We're physically stronger. We're physically stronger, but that's really the only place where our strength kind of lies. You guys have a lot. When the house is running right, typically it's the woman who's running the house right. When it comes down to having a kid, it's the woman who every second of the day, for however long she's carrying that baby, is obligated and on point and security and everything else that child needs.
So Chavez,
So, yes.
I gotta jump in and ask because Samika beat me to the punch. I was waiting to ask this question, and I love the way she worded it. She said, "So at what point do we work on those habits instead of using them as an excuse?" And the way I was going to say it was, "So what do we do about it?" Because
Well, let me tell you this. Here's the best way to not get a result is to dismiss it dismiss it as not being a real thing. So let me just say.
are you responding to the word excuse?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's a trigger. That's a trigger word that's used for the minority that the majority takes as a trigger. Because there are people who use it as an excuse, but then there are some people there are things that we all do. There are things that we all do that we know are that's not good for us. But you know how hard it is to even change that.
So what you're saying, I'm sorry, I want to clarify this. So what you're saying is if somebody uses the term excuse, for example, it's like it would be the equivalent of someone saying playing a card. That is undermining, one, the realness of the situation, and two, underestimating how big of a situation it is to change. Am I getting that
correct?
Okay.
Correct. Using the word excuse for a man is like using the word mad for a woman.
Okay.
Ooh.
Right.
Okay. And once again,
sorry,
I'm not letting brothers off the hook because of the way we kind of been socialized. Not even kind of the way we've been socialized. We are a hot mess. I gotta keep real. The way we've been conditioned and socialized, we are a hot mess. Like I said, we are not raised to be able to in a healthy relationship. Like and here's the other thing. You got to remember too. We're kind of destructive by nature. I mean, if you take a little boy and a little girl, you'll see there's a complete difference in how we do things. Like we will tear shit up. And then if you see that and don't give that any type of direction, if you don't see that energy and give it like some parameters and give it some direction and guidance, it becomes even harder as we get older to change because we're all rigid, whether you're a man or a woman.
And I gotta.
But it becomes even more difficult when you're a part of the group that's being told how you are is okay.
I got you. And I have to say this. So for me, this was such a shock to my system because my father was very unique in that he was a very much a masculine man, alpha, but was an amazing communicator. Like he literally would teach. That wasn't his full time job, but he would teach because he was such a good communicator, and he was extremely in touch with his feelings. Even though growing up, he said they were not encouraged. Like they literally did not focus on feelings and things like that. He was he's able to articulate himself, and that's where my expectations came from. I would even say that he might communicate slightly better than my mom if I really think about it. But she's a really great communicator as well. So we would sit down, and that's how I felt peace when things were worked out because we worked them out. My sister, great communicator, same thing. My brother, same thing. Like we're all communicators. So how does one learn that? How do I want people to be able to walk away from this video knowing what steps to take? Because, and before you answer that, the stress that Betty and I have is that we're willing. Like if someone told me it will take 5 years to get somebody there, I don't mind that. What I have a problem is when somebody shuts down and digs their heels in, and worse, flips it around and says it's my problem. That's what I have a problem with.
That's what we do. To give you a understanding of what you're dealing with in the male species. Betty and Yonci, have you guys ever thought about how cool or how fun it would be to run at someone full speed and slam your body into there?
Nope.
So this was the type of things that as a boy we enjoy. You're talking about people who dealt with conflict, with aggression. So it's like we don't deal well with like conflict resolution. And I'm not saying all of us, but many, if not most of us, don't deal well with conflict resolution. And once again, it's really therapy, and it has to be therapy. Brothers have to have therapy from another black man. You have to. You can't pick on it. It can't be a person of another race.
But what if he doesn't desire to get help?
And
well, first of all, there's not a lot of resources for black men under that. First of all, for black men, period, there's not a lot of resources. But then when you narrow the niche to say a black man can only help from another black man, do you know how few black male therapists there are?
And Betty, they have to identify that there's
insurance and that are close to you.
And you have to be able to identify that they have a problem to even need to get help. They haven't even gotten to the point of thinking that they need help. They just think it's the woman nagging.
The other thing is basically just kind of like group. Like I sit up and I talk to me and my buddies. We have conversations all the time. And I was just hanging out with one of my buddies over the weekend, and it was funny. He was like, dude, he told me about a situation where him and some buddies. One of his buddies has huge crib, this huge hot tub and stuff. He said, dude, we just hanging out, swimming and stuff. He said, he said they did a thing called hot tub confessions, right? And I started laughing. I was like laughing, and he was like, dude, he was like, I'm dead serious. He's like, people shared, man, and like literally Cass was in the hot tub crying. And like my dude is like, this dude is like no joke. This ain't the type of cat you want to run up on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and I was shocked. Like, yeah, for real? And he was like, yeah, man. He said we need more of that because he was like, me and you talk, but we, as a collective, black men don't get together and like have real discussion. And sisters do this, but we don't. And I trust and believe I get your frustration. I know a lot of dope sisters out here in the world. I know a lot of dope brothers, but it's just as guys, we just literally haven't been taught to communicate because the vast majority of us come from urban areas. And if you come from an urban area, then, your whole thing is like, you don't have emotion and be tough. And you don't speak. You speak with your hands, whether it be playing basketball or football or fighting. And so it's like these are the things that we need to do as guys. We need to start having more conversations about what we need to be like. What do we want? What do we want? Number
Chavez,
one,
I
yes,
I gotta say this. I feel like it's gonna be the blind leading the blind unless you have this really enlightened person slash therapist in the group. Because when you get the guys together, perfect example. I'm with the guys last night, and it's the two of them together, and they're totally gassing each other up, and reinforcing the poor thinking. When the women joined in, the two fiancés came in, and we added the other side of the coin. I won't say which one, but one of the person's mind was blown. He's like, "Whoa, I didn't realize that. I didn't look at it that way. I can't believe, da 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 da." I think that
Yeah, I agree with you.
it's only
I
helpful
agree with you, Yonci,
when
that
there's a
why needs
person who
to,
knows what they're talking
there needs
about.
to be some type of moderator, facilitator in those type of meetings, because all it will turn out to be is like this he-man, woman-hater club.
Women bashing, yes, and same thing with women. Like you were saying, me and Betty talking together are just gonna like perpetuate what we're feeling. That's what I'm saying. We need to come to get some answers, and I feel like one of the things that I love about what I have in our group is that we can learn, right? I remember doing a very tearful video one time just talking about a relationship I was in where I was verbally abused. And somebody messaged me after privately and was like, wow, just listening to you made me think about how I speak to my wife. And I remember just getting choked up reading that because he was able to see his wife in my experience. And I think sometimes in hearing people's perspectives, they can understand. And I feel like this is a format that I really want to work on where, and this is why I beg people to come on live, because you don't get this level of depth from just commenting in the comments. I really want to unpack this stuff because these are things that so many women are going through. And Chavez, I don't know if you were on when I said this. I had multiple people reach out to me on the side after they saw my post this morning. Women, like, I'm broken. I feel like giving up on dating. I'm so frustrated. Like, this is something that's really plaguing women. And these are the root issues. So many people think that the root issues are about gold diggers or sex or whatever. It's because emotionally, women don't feel secure. And if women felt emotionally secure, everything else would fall into place. And so I'm pulling my hair out, and Samika's over here dying too, because we need answers. We need to understand, like, how do we make things work? I cannot tell you how many guys I have literally walked away from who were great guys but didn't know how to communicate. This has to stop. It's like an epidemic. It needs to get resolved.
I'll give you this. I'll give you this. And I know I've told you this before, and I really came up with this a few years ago, but the situation between men and women is the same situation between white people and black people. When you have a group that quote unquote is the dominant group that only understands things according to how they operate
Mm.
and doesn't necessarily even really care because they haven't been taught to care about how the other side operates.
Oh,
So so and I talked to and I came up with that because I had to in order to get through to some of my brothers because
that's deep,
we all
Chavez.
listen. I am not acting like I've been an angel because I have not. Now what I will say is I've never not been forthcoming or forthright. I've never sat up and lied to someone about anything. But I'm at once again I'm 46. And it's within my 40s that I've been coming to some realization. Like in my 40s, and that's because I've been doing the work. So I know a lot of other brothers. We're just used to being who we are because this is what we've been allowed to do. The same way white people have been in a position of power and they can be mediocre their whole entire life or be below mediocre. Women can be the same exact way. because we're in a position of authority and power, and we can go through life and be mediocre and less than mediocre. But feel like we're not.
Yeah. And I think the thing that frustrates me is when I see men venting and they're upset, and so many guys are saying, I want a good woman, or I'm a good man, but the woman has her walls up so high. And it's because of this. Like, they don't see the dominoes, they don't see the chain of actions that are taking place to get to that place. And a lot of women aren't naturally gold diggers. I'm going to go on a limb and say this. There are a lot of women who aren't naturally users and gold diggers. However, they get to a place where they're so burned inside, they're so broken inside, that they're like, you know what? If I already know I'm about to get my heart beat down by this man, let me at least get as much as I can out of it materially. Like, I genuinely see how some people get to that point. They get jaded and bitter, and they're like, I'm gonna stop putting my heart out on there, my heart out on the line, because obviously I can't get love from a man. So let me at least get what I can, and get what I can. Same thing with guys. A guy's been broken so many times. He's like, let me not try to look for love from a woman. Let me just get as much physical, satisfaction I can get from her. And it kills me. And this is where my heart is, and this is the reason for the group, because I want to bridge the gap. I want to bring the two people together who have genuine intentions but just don't know how to do it better.
And good. And understand is, like I said about the guys or kind of being savage and aggressive by nature. Just understand that, by nature, relationships are difficult. And I can't, I'm not saying this isn't for women because I'm not a woman. And I'm just saying what I'm saying from a man's perspective. Relationships are difficult for us for a couple of years. And a lot of brothers are straying away from it because they know that they can't, as they are, they can't meet the expectations or the standards that most women would require. And I'm talking about, like, really, like you said, communication, fidelity. They're just things that just really, really hard from a nurture standpoint that they cause us to, like, fail, like fail ethically at relationships.
Sorry, you're getting a lot of feedback. Um, I I don't know, Samika. I'm with you on the same page. I think I see things so black and white a lot of times, and I don't have a lot of patience. I'm like, let's just get right to it. And so I do feel
But black and white is your vision. Black and white is your vision. White people see things black and white too. Black people see things black and white. So that's where it really comes in. And once again, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. But just understand your perspective. Your perspective.
and
We
I
got Democrats and Republicans fighting like cats and dogs right now. You know
I
what I'm saying?
understand.
Like,
I understand. We're just saying it's frustrating because there's no solution. So we can respect the fact that we're totally different. We respect the fact that we move differently. But at the end of the day, we're walking away from this conversation no further than we were. Like, we can understand the why, but we still don't have a solution. That's the frustration.
what I will say is this. You know, life um, doesn't transpire in a day or a week or a month or a year. As the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, right? And the next best time is to plant a tree is right now. So nothing is instant gratification. And I think as long as consciousness, as long as people are continuously thinking about it and having these discussions, I think change eventually comes. Now, when it comes tomorrow or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or not, I can't say that. But I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic because these types of discussions are happening and they weren't happening this often, for, 20 years ago or 30 years.
You know what?
They were happening.
You make a good point, and just like the people who were around during slavery, they fought, and never, a lot of them never got to see the fruits of their labor. And so, you know what? Maybe this is my legacy, and I'm really not being dramatic. I truly don't know if I'll ever encounter a man who knows how to communicate in my lifetime. You know that I'm also happen to be attracted to, but maybe my legacy is putting content out here that will wake up enough men that when my daughter's old enough to date, she will have a pool of men that are emotionally, intelligent,
Yeah.
and can articulate. That's the only solace that I can take. And I'm putting a man into the world who can. My son. We have amazing conversations. He is super handsome, so he's not like some weirdo that no person's gonna be attracted to. Very tall, handsome. Looks like Kobe, a mix between Kobe and Obama. And ladies love him, guys love him, and he's emotionally intelligent. He is able to communicate. So ladies, you're welcome. Ladies, in 20 years, because he's 16. So in 20 years, there's going to be a guy that you can possibly get married to. There's one. There's one in California that you can that you can have.
There's one.
One. There'll be
Your
one.
job, one boy at a time. As long as people are willing to put into work, here's hope. I can't say that I haven't encountered any guy who I've been able to communicate with. That's not true. But we're speaking in general. So the vast majority of people are not going to be compatible with us on that level. But at the same time, we don't need a whole bunch of people to be. We just need one, that one person. So among like during our search, we're going to encounter a whole lot of no-nos. So that's kind of what we're doing in the filtering process that we're going through. So they do exist. It's just a matter of getting to that person. I have had that communication before, and well, actually a couple of people, it didn't work out for other reasons. But as long as both people are willing to set aside ego and try to meet each other halfway, it comes from the standpoint of trying to understand where the other person is coming from and not judge them harshly. And just try to have that level of listening and not looking to attack. And I think that would be help too. And just being willing to sit in the uncomfortable
Yes.
as opposed to walking away. It's so easy to walk away. You came back into the dating scene. We're in cancel culture, and this was a terrible time to come back. But this is where we're at.
Yes.
And unfortunately, people will, cancel each other for chewing too loud.
Girl.
So this is just what it is. So we just have to set something aside and really understand what our needs are versus our preferences, and still make that effort to communicate, even if we're not getting it back. We can't let how other people respond or lack of response change who we are.
Yes.
We have to strive and being who we are and showing up as genuine, and eventually that will attract what we're looking for.
Yeah. I agree.
We'll
And
try not to get changed in the meantime.
yeah, I definitely do get I have moments where I get really jaded and very, very, very bitter, and then I realize how much I enjoy the male company, the male species. So I get over it, but I do have moments where I'm super, super frustrated. But I want to say this, and Samika, we're just on the same wavelength because she asked the question I want to ask. She said, "What support can we give as women to start the recognition process?" So, like, what can we do to even start to help the guy identify that there's something that he might want to look into?
I'm gonna tell you just like I'm gonna tell you as I said before. I've already made the correlation between the situation between men and women, like white and black. Just like
Sorry, one of you guys has really bad feedback, like a windows.
It's me. I'm driving. Sorry.
Is your window down? Maybe you're the AC blowing into your phone because it's just the wind we hear.
Oh, it's my AC. I definitely don't have the window down. It's
Oh,
96
okay.
degrees outside. October. Wow.
I know it's been so hot lately.
Yeah. Turn
Um,
my AC down as low as I could. Sorry.
or just
I'll probably just
maybe point the vent just away from the phone, like if you can make it directional, yeah, because it just sounds like it's blowing
I don't
directly
know.
into the mic.
It's on Bluetooth.
Oh, that is weird. Okay, yeah, that's weird. That's super weird. But what were you saying? I'm sorry, love.
So my thing is, it's not up. I had an older white woman come to me and ask what she could do in regards to just race relations, and I said, work with your people. Like,
Ooh.
this is y'all. This is as much a white person's issue as it is a black people's issue. And I'm like, you guys are the ones that's actually running the show. So your job is not to come over here and figure out what's going on with us and help us. No, go back and have some real conversations with your people and get them to see why there needs to be a change. So it's not up to the sisters. It's more of us brothers. Like I said, I have plenty of conversations with my dudes. I've been doing this for years. And we have conversations, from my cats from Harlem to the south side of Chicago to Miami to Atlanta. Like, you have these combos, and it's just like getting people to understand, like, their perspective, where it came from, and then how you may want to switch that up. Like, if you really want to be in something, if you really want to see the world a certain way, if you really want to be in a relationship, like, you really got to look at, how you're coming into it. How we come into it and how we are is going to impact whether or not, the longevity of it.
But that again requires there to be some guy going back to his tribe saying, guys, we need to work on this. Like,
I'm gonna tell you like this, like you said before, and I've used the same analogy where it's just like there was a time I could go back to 1826 and tell black people who were enslaved at that time. One day we would walk free amongst white people, and they would be like, "Get the hell out of your life." You can't let your circumstances and conditions dictate to you what it is that you want. If what you believe is real, then, like the Wright brothers believe that, we can fly, and everybody else is like, oh, y'all crazy as shit. We just gonna fly like birds. No. Like, you just can't be dissuaded by external conditions and circumstances. If you in your heart believe that things can be better, then you just got to do the work to make it better. And understand that it's going to be a process, and understand that, there's going to be more no's and more downs than ups and yeses. And not take it personally.
interesting.
And with that being said, everybody's not going to buy into it, and it's not for everybody to get it either. But as long as they don't get in the way, it's fine. Just to get enough people to buy into it, to actually get some forward movement and inertia behind it.
Interesting. I was catching up on some of these other comments too, but I I'm not gonna lie, I am discouraged because I'm a problem solver. I want to fix things, and what I hear you saying is that there's not a solution. Keith says, like, what are three labels women think men want? Do we have three labels? I don't I don't know what you mean. So if you're still watching, Keith, let me know. Samika says, me, ask question. Him, talks about the question. Me, ask the question. Him, you don't listen. Child, I've had so many conversations with guys where I ask a question that to me has a very direct answer. Like, what do you want to drink? Soda, water, whatever. Like, there's an answer. And then they give back words, and I still don't know what they want to drink. And then if I say it again, it's like, why are we still talking about this? Because I didn't get the information that I needed. Like, I just feel sometimes like we're talking two different languages. I had somebody give me,
We are.
and it's frustrating. I had somebody tell me that there was something that was problematic. And I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. Like, there was no issue. I don't have a problem. I appreciate feedback because I'm like, cool, if you can identify the problem, then we know how to avoid it in the future. We meaning me. So he let me know that something was a problem, and I asked why. And the reason the why is important is because if you know what the principle is, you can avoid the principle because chances are you're not going to come into the exact same situation verbatim. It's going to be the underlying principle, whether it's disrespect or disregard or whatever. Like, you have to understand the underlying principle. and he could not put it into words what it was that was a problem, but was only able to say, talk to another guy, I'm sure he'd agree. Okay, even if 10 guys say, yeah, I agree, that still doesn't mean that I understand what the underlying issue is.
So, so in you saying that, so in you saying that, here's my question then. You've experienced enough guys to understand that there is literally in thought process and communication skills, right?
Uh huh.
So for me, it reminds me of the person who I've seen. I've been over people's house and they got a cat, or a dog, and the cat does something that we all know cats do, and the person gets super frustrated about it, and like lose it. Hey, stop scratching, stop licking, stop doing this, stop barking, like, and I'm just like, don't let it affect you in such a way because you know it's there. What you do have to do is, I'm not saying don't address it, and I'm definitely not saying don't try to find a way to get a better understanding or have the conversation. But all I'm saying is don't take it on and affect you so greatly when you know that the communication aspect is a thing. You just have to your point, you have to figure out, is this person who I'm having an issue with communicating with, are they open to having a discussion and maybe bettering themselves? And if they're not, let me move on. Because there are guys out there who can communicate. There may not be a lot of us. You may not be in mass like women, but at the same time, it's like, because that's what y'all do. I mean, you guys women learn how to communicate as girls. We do not. Our learning is scoring points, fighting, arguing. That's what we like. So, you know, I definitely don't want people to be discouraged, it's kind of one of those things where we're going, we have to continue, like we go through life getting more no's than we do yeses. We go through life getting more failures, quote unquote, than we do success. But it's how do we go through life? And how do we allow these things to affect
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we as women are constantly you explain why, because it's a man's world. And we are the ones that want the marriage and we want the relationships versus the guys, they're very content not to. So he who wants more loses more and has less power. But as a woman, it is frustrating that in order to be in a relationship, I have to compromise my sanity or just be alone. And it's frustrating.
Listen, let me tell you something. We both feel like we compromise our sanity. I can't tell you how many married dudes I like that I got homeboys I got where their wives done everything. I'm talking like I said before, the ring she wanted, he didn't care about. I said the wedding, he didn't care about. It's like we just leave like, you know what, if that's what you want, cool.
There are many self-help books and seminars and magazine covers telling men how to comport themselves to please women. There
Mm.
just aren't. Who are the female Steve Harvey? There are.
Steve Harvey is definitely not. I wouldn't
No, I'm just saying though, you have so many men who put themselves as relationship experts telling a woman how to woman in
Ooh.
order to get a man.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. No, you 100% right. That's why I said it's important for men to deal with men in the same way I think women should deal with black women because just
And I
from a
think
gender
if
standpoint.
I can drop a scripture in Titus 2 verses 2, it says elder women are to teach the younger women. They don't say nothing about men teaching women anything about how to be a woman, wife, mother. But yet so many men step out of their lane to do it. And I'm just amazed and flabbergasted by it. And, we be gaslighted from every direction. It's
Oh.
like, okay, you're not doing this enough. You're not doing that. If you just did this, if you just weighed this much, if you just said that, if you did your hair like this, and it's never enough.
Mm.
Never enough.
Mm.
But
Mm.
here's the thing though. Like I said, women feel the same way. The only difference is men are quote unquote in a position of power, and they feel the same. Once again, when I look at the friends that I have, right? And I'm not saying it's this way, but it seems like they give up more for the relationship than the woman. And when I say that, I'm saying in regards to everything that she, happy wife, happy life. So he doesn't try to pull her necessarily into some of his things. He pulls him into everything, or wants him to be excited and wants him to be into everything. Like we just have an understanding, like things are separate. Like you will never have to watch a basketball game, a football game. This is what I got my boys for. Like it's even the small things. A lot of my boys have been like, like she wants me to go to this, and she wants me to go to that, and she wants this couch, and it's like from a financial standpoint, and then we typically as guys, we typically are like, all right, well, whatever you want, and we just accept that that is how it is. Right? And I know women on your side, you have plenty, like you said, communication. I already know that for them. They like, I found out a lot of shit when I was 24. I didn't find out how women really kind of experience life until, I found out from one of my homegirls that she was getting date raped. And then she ran me through, like, how life is for women. And I'm like 24 years old, like, nah, that's not how things go. She's like, yeah, that is how things go. I'm like, nah, I can't be. Because I'm thinking about me. I'm like, yeah, no, that can't be how things go. So it's like on both sides have our, they do this type thing. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's just us as guys, we cannot tell, I will not tell a woman how she should be. But what I will tell her is what men typically like. Like what's a turn off and what's not a turn off. And I can say what that is. Now it's not to say that's right or wrong, but I can say what that is. Men, just like I was saying earlier, black men need to deal with black men in regards to therapy or even discussion, and black women need to deal with black women. Like a black woman does not need to deal with a black man or a white man or anything else because there are things that come into play, race, gender, because now you're talking about is this opposite genders. There could be some sexual energy there. Like I try to remove as much external distractions as possible. Like,
But if you limit your help to just somebody who looks like you, like I said, there's not a lot of us in the mental health profession. So if you have to wait for that, then you're never going to get the help.
No, do what you do, but just understand when we don't we really I don't think we know to the full extent um, that racism is a health and safety crisis of epic proportions in America because anytime we as black people being on the receiving end of racial bias more than any other race here, we have to understand anytime we interact with someone who's non-black, we don't know what their biases may make them do.
No, I get it. I mean, we have that interracial bias too, because we're not a monolith. Some of us could be on a different socioeconomic level and had a completely different upbringing. Somebody who grew up in New York is completely different than somebody who grew up in LA. And, there could be like the religious difference. So things like that can impact your therapeutic experience as well. I can see personally where I, sought therapy and I thought to myself, okay, I need her to be black, I need her to be female, I need her to be close to my job, take my insurance, be a Christian. And I was okay, boom, found her. Guess what? She was trash. So, you gotta keep looking. Yes. And unfortunately that pool was already so small and it's so hard to find that criteria. Like, if I was fortunate enough to find somebody else, but and based on where I live, I think I'm fortunate because I was able to find somebody else. But other people who are not in a bigger city like LA may not be able to get that. Mm-hmm. So
at that point, you need to get. I'm saying best case scenario is to find someone who meets you there, but I'm definitely not saying not to get any help whatsoever and just hold off. But definitely do the work to try to find someone because I'm gonna tell you something. There's nothing worse than someone who doesn't understand you culturally.
Right.
Listen,
And you should have to explain to them, have your session, kind of like break it down, like the inner workings of the black culture before you can the issue, because they don't get
yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's frustrating.
yeah. You know,
Okay.
not saying I got like I said, I have friends of other races, friends, and they get it. That's why they're my friends. Like maybe they actually get it, and I didn't have to pull it out of them. You know what I'm saying? Like that's when you can get that, then cool. But we really have to understand like how big the racial aspect of things are, and how it really impacts how a person would deal with you, be it a doctor, a police officer, a therapist, anybody. Like that's real.
Okay, so I want to open
It's
this
just
up
that
to.
it's divided.
I want
But
to.
you know what? At this point, guys, I'm going to have to bring my portion of the conversation to a close because I have arrived at my client's house. So I will catch y'all on the research.
I so
So yeah.
appreciate the call, Betty. You have no idea. And thank you, Chavez, too. I was going to say, I want to open it up, too, if there are any guys who can shed some light on this because Chavez's solution was, hoping that men figure out that they have work to do and that they start to do the work. That's their solution. That's his solution. So I'm curious to know if there are any other guys who are watching, not many left of you watching live right now, but if there are and you want to come on, let me know before we wrap because I would love to see, if there are any thoughts there. I will say on behalf of women, and again, I've had, even while I'm doing this, more women have reached out to me and messaged me saying that this is something that is really, really, really stressful. This is a big deal. This is a really, 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 really big deal. And we got to figure this out. We really have to figure this out. And one of the things that's so difficult about dating is that when you're getting to know someone, you're walking on eggshells because we live in a ghosting, we live in a time where ghosting is considered acceptable. And so you have absolutely no idea if you did something right, you did something wrong, you just weren't compatible, or there was somebody else. You don't know from one situation to the next why the situation ended. And so, in my opinion, it can cause little miniature traumas or, just there's so much confusion that you don't know how to navigate because we develop as people in how we relate with other people. But if we never get feedback from people, we don't know how to unpack that. And so, we could be reinforcing things that are bad or stopping things that are good because we don't know how to take the situation. You just know that things seem to be going well and then the person just ghosted you. Things seem to be going well and the person ghosted you. So then you stop sharing, you stop being open, you stop being vulnerable. And then you get with a guy who is healthy and then he doesn't want you because you have too many walls up according to him. It's so confusing and I really hope that we can find a solution for my generation because, the divorce rates just keep going up. As time goes on, the divorce rates go up. I feel like we as a society have gotten more and more and more selfish. And it's not to say that the people, older years had it figured out. There was a lot of infidelity and people just stayed because they didn't have any other options economically. So I'm not painting this overly rosy picture of the past. However, I think we have a lot of things wrong because in this day and age, it's all about me, 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 me. And people don't see themselves as being a partnership, even in just dating. There's no accountability to the other person. They feel like as long as I get mine and I'm happy that I'm good. But those types of energies turn into the relationships, and those relationships turn into marriages. And so I think it's important from the beginning to treat people how we want to be treated. And so I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm going to continue uh, to to give my input, and I'm going to continue to have these conversations and put it out in the universe so that we can see if we can grow. Troy says, as a coach, I would love to come in on this conversation. Troy, are you available to come in right now? Because I would love to end on your part.
John,
Yes, love.
John, real quick, I'm gonna give you a recommendation. A book called The Way of the Superior Man.
I've heard
Right?
about it a lot.
The Way of the Superior Man. And when I read books, I've rarely read a book that I agree 100% with. So I don't read to agree. I read things and I listen to things to allow for them to kind of come in, and then I mull them over, and I just kind of take it in. There, I kind of decide on where I want to be with what I've read or I've listened to. So the Way of the Superior Man is definitely a book that I actually recommend for most brothers to take a look at. I'm not telling them to believe everything or accept everything, but just with an unbiased mind, just read it or listen to it on Audible, and just kind of let it spark some thought, introspection. That's all I ever do when I read.
Okay. So he's recommending, guys, that you read The Way of a Superior Man, and hopefully that will help some.
And the title is really long because it will make you think it's one thing, but it's not that.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, love.
Cool.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Peace.
Okay, bye. All right, Troy. So hopefully you have seen this by now or heard my response. But if you would like to come on now, let me know. Let me see here. I will send you. Let's see. I'll wait just a second to see if you're going to come on, and I'll give you the call-in number. But let me know. So you guys, for those of you who didn't watch from the beginning, I'll just give you a quick summation. Betty and I started out by talking about how frustrating it was being in a situation with a person who's, for all intents and purposes, was a good person. They weren't terrible. They didn't have all these other issues. But the one thing was that they weren't able to have conversations. Anytime the woman, us, me or Betty, would bring something up, the person would shut down. And I did a post asking about what makes a woman clingy. And one of the guys was saying that men just really don't relish talking the way women do. And they shut down a lot. And so I was asking something, and people were saying, well, it's the time and the place, or it's this or it's that. There are all these reasons why men don't want to talk, but it doesn't seem like anyone has been able to give the tips on when. When is it a good time? How do they want to be approached? What should we say? What should we? I don't even want to say what should we not say, because we've already addressed all the things that we shouldn't say. How do women speak to men about the things that they need? Chavez was saying that men tend to not need much from women, and therefore they kind of want that return, just kind of like, I'm paraphrasing, just shut up and let us be how we are. But as women, we have certain emotional needs that need to be met, and we want to talk about it. And there are things that bother you guys, but maybe you don't talk about it. Maybe you just show it in other ways, i.e. ghosting, falling back, distancing yourself. Suddenly it's like, oh, he's not calling me as much, he's not texting me as much, he's not asking me out as much. Where you could have just said, I didn't like this. There was literally a situation where a guy was telling me a story about what happened with a woman, and I was like, but did you tell her? Because in the same vein, you guys say, we're not mind readers, so don't expect us to read your mind. Or I'm not the next guy, so don't treat me like the last guy. Okay, well then if we open up our mouths and tell you what we need, don't shut down, because that tells us to be quiet. Don't tell you what we need, because you're going to shut down and ghost us because you're emotionally draining because you have needs. So it's frustrating. I'm not going to lie. It's frustrating because I don't know the solution, and I want to be in a healthy relationship with a man, but it seems like the only people I can communicate effectively with are women. And I don't like women that way. Cool as friends, not as lovers. So I would love nothing more than to find the solution. What is the happy medium? Samika says I shut down a lot as well. If my direct and transparency doesn't trigger response directed to my question, I shut down. I don't like the back and forth. Yeah, I get exhausted. I'm like, let's. It shouldn't be this complicated. It shouldn't take this much back and forth. All right, Troy. Well, you have not responded yet. I think I've stalled enough. So maybe next time we can get your thoughts. Reach out to me directly if you would like to, and I can see about getting you on. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm always shocked that these go so long. It's been almost, it's been an hour and 34 minutes. But anyway, guys, those of you who are watching on Facebook, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, please comment below and let me know your thoughts. Share this video with the people that you think will appreciate it. And if you guys want to get more dating conversations, you can subscribe to my channel. I give dating tips and advice. I also do a lot of videos on mental health, overcoming anxiety specifically, and depression, and how to have a life that is worth living. So if you would like to check it out, you can. You can find me everywhere on social media as Chasing Yonci. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as YouTube, of course. If you're watching, you know that already. Anyway, guys, you can. Oh man, how are you gonna come in at the end and you're the dude probably with all the answers? Rock is in the house. I will give you like 3 seconds. I will put you on the spot. I was actually taking phone calls. We just got off with the other two callers, but we are trying to figure out how women can talk to men without making men shut down. That's basically what it is. But I was gonna say if you wanted to learn more about me, you can also go to my website, chasingyancy.com. But Rock, let me know and put you on the spot. If you want to call in, you can call in and give your thoughts. But Chavez was trying to give his advice, and his advice was basically that there's really nothing that a woman can do. A guy's gonna have to figure it out on his own, and it might take decades for men to come around to the point where they realize that they need to be better communicators. And so, hold on one second. My little dude is texting me. So it, Giselle, it was. It. I really recommend you go back and listen because this was powerful. And I'm actually going to be putting it on YouTube as well, so you guys can share it if you would like. But Raymond, let me know if you want to tie in because you know I really, really respect your opinions and your thoughts, and I think you might be able to drop some pearls of wisdom. Um, All right, so I'm trying to bribe people. All right, we'll see if they will. But yeah, so that's it. Like I said, please like this video if you liked it, comment, and let me know your feedback. Also, let me know where you're watching from. With YouTube, I don't know as much because this is newer. Where people are watching from. Facebook, I know. But share with somebody that you think might like it. And like I said, subscribe if this is something that you want to get more of. And also, when you subscribe, be sure to hit the bell notification so you can be notified when a new episode drops. Today, I just dropped, what is today, Tuesday? Today, I just dropped an episode on overcoming anxiety. So that one came in today. And also, shameless plug for my two podcasts, Ear Candy, the show, where I talk about dating, love, sex, and relationships, and the New Normal podcast, which I talk about all the hot topics, so the headlines in pop culture. Co-hosts Triune and Doughboy, who you might have seen from Wild and Out. All right, guys, I am signing off now. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Until next time, tell someone that you love them.